Hey, Lucy.
How are we doing?
I'm all right, buddy. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. How was your weekend?
It was good. There was lots of food. There was some moving around of things which I didn't like. But apart from that, it was good. Managed to hang out with husband a little bit. How about you?
It was good. Dog walks, beach, relax. Very chilled.
That is
Got
a
our
good
friends
weekend
down.
for you. Oh no, hang on. I think I saw some messages that involved some vino.
There was a lot of red wine.
Yeah, so that doesn't sound quite as chill as you were making out there, I
It
don't
was at
think.
home. It was nice and relaxed. It's our friend's 1-year anniversary, and they've been with us. And we'll celebrate. We'll do something all together. Will's are totally forgotten. Totally forgotten. So when we went for coffee this morning with a dog walk, I bought them both a coffee and was like, "Well, it's paper for your anniversary, so happy anniversary." No cute cups. Yeah, it's been good.
That's good. That's really good. So, Lucy, what are we here to talk about today?
Today is one of my favourite topics. We are going to talk about the growth mindset and all about discipline over motivation to make sure you're successful in sales.
Yeah, I like it. When we talked about this topic, I said to you, oh my God, I feel like the growth mindset is a bit ick for me and it's been done loads. And, you know, we talked a lot about that and it has been done a lot. It has been talked about. It is not the fact that it's not a great topic and a very relevant topic. But I do think people get a little bit hitched on this, like putting somebody in a category, like you've got a closed mindset or you've got a growth mindset. And I really don't like that. But in the context of sales, it absolutely is a very, very, very relevant topic. And there was something that you said when we were talking about this, and it was discipline over motivation. And I was like, can we just use that as the topic? Because that's way better than a growth mindset.
Yeah.
Why don't you kick us off with, like, you know, to you, right? Growth mindset, but let's distill that down to, discipline. Like, talk to me about what that means for you.
I think the growth mindset, fixed mindset all came from Carol Dweck, didn't it? And it kind of went viral in the sales world.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you double down on it, essentially, we should see how much jargon we use on this podcast. And then see how many listeners go jargon. I think essentially it comes down to building the foundations of a really well-oiled machine, and that well-oiled machine is yourself, and how you present yourself, how you deliver, what your day-to-day activities look like, how you handle like resilience, adversity, all those things. So I almost feel like the discipline over motivation and the growth mindset is almost the foundations to the house. Like how do you start building the house? You lay the foundations first, and this is like the first component to it. I think that's my perspective. What about yours?
Yeah, I think, look, in any job you have things to get done, right? And there are parts of your job that you really enjoy, and there are parts of your job that you don't enjoy, right? And that is any role. But the thing for me is, like, I've often seen in sales in particular that if you do not arrive at work with the right frame of mind that you will achieve that target or that quota that has been set for you, or that you can achieve the number of activities that you need to do in a day, or that you do have at your disposal the assets and the tools and the narratives and the decks and the case studies and all the things that will help you take a prospect from, you know, here to here. If you don't believe that all of that exists right there, and you don't believe that, I genuinely do not believe that you will hit your number. And for me, it is more of that. I can do this. Okay, you might not have every single thing, depending on the type of company that you work for. You might not have the best case studies. You might not have an SDR or a BDR that is helping you to generate leads in that particular role. But if you don't believe that you can do it on your own, or you can do it by really putting in the grit and the resolve, then you won't. You just won't. And that's for me, like when you talked about the growth mindset, particularly in sales, it was like, well, yeah, I mean, if you defeated before you even walk in the door, like it's over.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things where it's almost like sales is enough of a roller coaster. And I think we've spoken about this a lot over the years. It's like, how do you control the roller coaster? And I don't know how you feel about it, but I almost feel like I got to the discipline over motivation thing like years later than I did in sales. So I didn't just walk into sales and be like, right, I'm going to hit this target. I'm going to hold myself accountable. I'm going to do all those things. I had no idea until a few years ago. I was like, actually, this is probably the secret sauce to having like a real like longevity in the profession, essentially.
Yeah.
When you
absolutely.
when you moved into sales, when did you feel like you had it like under control?
When did I feel like I had it under control? I think when we talked about kind of our careers last time, I think when I really got into holding my own in terms of a number was in real estate, right? And it was when I was actually, because real estate's a really interesting game, right? Because unless you have the stock, you won't have the sales. So you have to be really, really, really good at listing properties. If you have them, they will come. Like that is pretty much the rule. So I needed to get my conversion rate to like between the 60 and 80%, right? And that's really high conversion, but that's where I needed to be to make sure that I had enough stock on the market to generate the interest. I had enough stock to sell to hit the numbers. And it's real back of a napkin stuff, right? It's like, so how many valuations do I need to go to each week? How many houses do I need to list each week? How many houses do I then need to sell each week to hit these numbers that have come down from, well, we don't know where they come down from sometimes, but they come down from these people at head office. I think that's when I really kind of got into my stride that, you know what, this is a numbers game. And then really dissecting why did I win that so quick versus what was in my control versus what wasn't in my control. Because then what I could do, I could see that could lead to who booked that valuation, because that was a really bad valuation, right? And who booked that valuation? Why was that a really good valuation? And so you start to understand the bits and pieces where you can actually impact. And I think that's where I really started to get into the nitty gritty of, understanding the numbers, understanding the breakdown, and just starting to get a bit more methodical with it instead of just like, hoping and praying that these bluebirds are going to come in the door. Like, yeah. So that was me. And they usually do. And look, you do get bluebirds. They do happen. You do get bluebirds. Every month, they just float in and save you, or that big elephant deal comes off. It's just that you can't rely on them. That's the difference. Yeah, you know that you will get some luck. You know that you will have some things that come in, but you can't rely on them.
You've got to maintain control, 100%.
100%.
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the topics that I'm like stupidly passionate about is just reverse engineering. Like if that's like we've said it so many times, it's like just know your numbers. If you know how much you're converting, then you can literally just work your way through the sales funnel. And I used to be like, okay, cool, so I'm going to wait this week to turn it up. And it was like almost that basic. And people would be like, what are you doing differently? And I was like, the difference, and I've thought this for a while now, the difference between the top performer and the bottom performer is consistency. That's it. The bottom performer often knows what to do. They know how many dials they need to make and how many demos they need to run, but they don't do it. Whereas the consistent person, and that's a discipline over motivation, will do it even when they can't be asked, even when it's crap day and they don't want to do it. They'll still pick up the phone and still know those numbers because they've reverse engineered everything. And they know in 2 dials time that the numbers say they're going to book something. And if that goes over, they're probably going to double book. And I really enjoy that aspect. And that's one of the things that I've tried to like drive home to anyone I've ever spoken to about sales. It's like, just know your numbers and just do it.
I love that. Yeah. But then coming back to the mindset piece, right, is again, it's really, really critical because you can know your numbers, you can execute to your numbers consistently, as you just said. But that pressure is still there, right? The pressure of your targets, the pressure of your quota. Maintaining control when it's not going your way is a skill, is an absolute skill to be able to weather the bad times, and to really, really stick to those numbers, and to know that, yeah, look, it's not quite going my way this month, or that deal dropped out that I was pretty sure was going to come in, and where am I now going to find that gaping hole that my manager's now going to see on the numbers because I've pushed it out by a month. So what are some of the things that you see in the day-to-day when you're doing your coaching with people around this kind of mindset piece, right? Because it is tough, and we all have those bad days, and you can be as consistent as you like. But again, the top performers can kind of push through that and not get distracted and not go into that well of pain.
Not at all. I think this is a soundbite for today. You can take this. Like, we are in sales, we are not saving lives. The first thing that people need to recognize is, like, we are not we've just been through years of COVID. The people that like were actually needed were the doctors, nurses, workers. Like, we're in sales, selling software a lot of the time, or selling houses or gym memberships, whatever it might be. So I think you've got to get into the mindset, like, you are not saving lives. And so therefore, anything that you do, you need to always be looking to try and help someone anyway. So that was like always my number one. So I never felt pressure, and I never felt that ambition breath. I was like, well, do you know what? If I miss, I miss. Like, it's really not the end of the world. What happens? Just the first tick's over and you just go again. And then you repaint the picture. And that's your time to start again. When I was in HubSpot, I used to literally just track everything, like, within an inch of its life. And I picked up on very quickly that here was my ratio of picking up the phone to booking it and just working through it that way. And it's one of those things where also I think it was a Chris Williamson podcast, who uses the discipline over motivation thing. People put all these really audacious goals above you. And it's like, I'm going to book this, or I'm going to close this, or I'm going to hit P Club in my first year. And it's like, but that will only get you so far. Like, the goal only gets you so far. You've got to find something that you enjoy in it. And I genuinely enjoy people. So that was always like my go-to. It's like, I wonder how many cool conversations I can have today, how many people I can meet, what industries I can learn about, which I haven't really touched on before. And I always start my day the same. My day starts exactly the same 99% of the time. And that sets the foundation for me to go, right, I'm going to have a good day today. And I literally used to say that, like, right, today, I'm going to have a good day. And it goes back to a well-known sales methodology that we all know around the Sandler mindset. And it's like, how you wake up is essentially how you will behave, and then how you will behave will dictate your action, and then your action will dictate your result. And if you wake out of bed and miserable and you don't pick up the phone, or you think they don't want to speak to you because you're an SDR and, I don't want to hear from me again. And it's that mindset control thing. And if you can break the circuit, that's really important.
I love what you just said there, because again, mindset, the way you wake up in the morning. Are you grateful for the things that you have? Are you grateful that you have a hot shower every morning, right? Are you grateful for the fact that you get to, in your case or my case, walk on the beach with your dog in the morning, right? It's all those things that are the build up to your day. If you roll out of bed and you trip over and you smack your head and you stub your toe, and it does impact your day, but you can always take control of that back. So I think that's it's just such a good thing to call out. Another thing that you said there was you reframed what you were doing, right? So there's a difference between, God, I'm going to crush out 50 calls today, versus I'm going to speak to 50 really interesting people today, and I'm going to learn something new. Very, very, very different way of looking at things, right? And if that helps you to approach those calls in a more positive, stronger, kind of more confident way, then that's exactly what you should be doing. I'm very lucky. I come from Huddersfield in Yorkshire in North England. It got voted the most friendly place in the UK. And we talk to anyone.
Speak to you and your family.
We know that Yorkshire folk, we will talk to anyone, anybody. We don't care, like, anything. We will talk to anybody. And I genuinely believe that has helped me in my sales career, because I do not see hierarchy. I would speak to an EA the same way that I would speak to the CEO if they picked up that phone call. And I think that is another mindset piece that, particularly in sales, you need to get out of your head. These are just people. right? They go about their day just like everybody else does. They go to the toilet just like everybody else does. They are just people. And you have to be really confident to go, you know what? I know more about my solution, my product, and how this can help them. I just need the opportunity to speak to them and tell them why. And so again, I think that mindset piece in two things that you said there. Number one, reframe it, make it more interesting, engaging, more positive. And number two, like, these people are not kings and queens. They're not celebrities. I know we like to make many CEOs feel like celebrities, but they're not, right? Like, and so just having that confidence to, and, back up to, I've got something to say and I've got something that I think will be really beneficial to you. Changing that mindset is super good.
You've got one of those skills, and I think I've got better at it, but you do it very well, is you get in the big boat and the small boat. And that was the analogy I got told years ago. And that's what you're talking about, like talking to the CEO really clearly and then talking to the EA or the cleaner. It's like, it doesn't matter who you're doing. And the ability to that, I think, sounds simple on paper, but so many people overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So obviously we've kind of moved out of sales more recently into what is now essentially a lot of project work. Like and it applies to both lenses, sales and what we do now. But like, how do you stay focused? Because I've seen some of those pieces of work come out of your Miro boards.
How do I stay focused? I am a real planner. So if anybody looks at my diary, it's incredibly color coded. And that's everything. That's not just my work life. That's what supports the work life, right? Who's walking the dog today and at what time? What time am I going to go to the gym? There's sacred practices in my day, as you know, that will not move, and I'll get very grumpy if they do. But for instance, movement is my medicine. So I train 5-6 days a week. And I need that. I need that in my life. So anything that's yellow in my diary is personal. Anything that's green is a task. Anything that's red is a meeting. And you will see my entire calendar is kind of blocked out and I allocate the right amount of time. And I think the older that you get, the more experience that you get in your job, you're very, very good at knowing how long something is going to take you. So there's a skill in that. Sometimes, yes, it gets blown out. It ends up being a lot bigger. And that's how I manage my time and manage my projects. Is I bring the same amount of rigor that I do to that I do to sales. How long is it going to take me? When's the deliverable? Is it something I can do in a day? Is it research based and therefore I'm waiting for bits of information? And that's how I stay focused in just life, is just making sure that I prioritize the things that will get the work done. I often put my phone on focus mode, do not disturb. You know that I actually delete my social media Monday to Friday because I just find it distracting. I find the whole thing distracting. I get sucked down a rabbit hole looking at YouTube videos and French bulldogs. That's pretty much what gets served up to me on the algorithm. So yeah, that's me. That's how I remain focused. But that has been my entire life. That I've just changed it from number of calls to like number of hours spent on a project. It's the same methodology. It does not change. And again, in sales, like blocking out when I was going to hit the phones, because I know that I'm more proactive and productive at particular times of day as well. Like first thing in the morning, 3 p.m. Those are my two, like, do the things that I need to get done. They're my times. That's when I know my energy is good. So yeah. How about you?
I agree. I think one of the things that I used to do was literally move my phone out of the room, like quite literally take it out because I was too easily distracted. So phone away, time blocked in my hours, one task at a time. I used to try and start doing 2-3 things at once and then realize that that's just super ineffective. Like, I'll send that email and do that payment link and I'll do that. And it's like, actually, well, just do one thing at a time, because often then that's done better. And other than that, I think I'm just really strict with myself, like really, really strict with myself about actually, and then actually executing on that. I think there was a thing, I'm going to quote Chris Williamson way too much. His podcast recently was talking about like all these things, right? Like blocking out your diaries, putting your phone, picking the phone up, whatever it may be. You can put all these tasks in place. But that doesn't mean you're actually doing it. And so many people are like, well, I've blocked out my diary. But you're still not picking up the phone, are you? So this, like, planning the task isn't doing the task. Creating a goal isn't doing the goal. Like, you've still got to do the work. You've still got to pick up the phone. You've still got to do those things. And that was one of Actually, one of our friends, Rob, one of his things that kind of moved us when we started, when you actually brought him into the business where we were all working, he looked after the SDRs. And one of the things that he said to them really early on, and we know how managers can overcomplicate this stuff, is he made it super simple. You are not to end the week without your tasks being less than 10 and a certain amount of prospects added. That prospects added and tasks completed, because that meant in their world that they'd been moving through the task list. So they were actually completing the tasks, and then they were actually adding prospects into the CRM, which meant they were multi-threading, they were working accounts, etc. Rather than going into all the other stuff. They were kind of the two metrics that he did really well. They're probably wrong here, telling me something different, but it was definitely something along those lines.
Yeah, I love that.
Some rigor.
I really, really like that. And I think it's really hard. I think anybody listening who works in a larger corporation would know that there are so many other things that you could be doing in that business other than doing your job, right? Because there are lunch and learns, there are things that your managers asked you to do, there are like burning platforms that other people have. And depending on the complexity of the product or the solution that you sell, you're often engaging with many different people around the business, be that solutions engineers, be that BDRs, SDRs, other managers, other solutions specialists. So there are so many other things that you can be doing other than your job. And that simplicity of going, okay, but what am I actually measured on?
Yeah.
Yeah. And coming back to that, what am I measured on? What am I paid on? And I have a lot of respect for, there's somebody I'm thinking of in my mind right now who embodies this, and he is so not me. Like, I could never be him in the way that he operates, because he will literally only focus on the things that he needs to do his job and to be successful, and will not respond to emails that he deems to be not contributing to that. And so I admire somebody who can behave like that. I really admire someone who can push everything else out and only focus on the things that will enable him to hit his number, do his job. Although to me, like, a bit of the detriment to that, and the bit that I would struggle with, is there are other people that are relying on information from you or something from you to also do their job. So I think it is a balancing act. But I admire people. I really do admire people who can get to the nth degree where they go, you know what, this is how I'm paid. This is what I'm targeted on. And that's what I need to remain focused on. And always prioritizing that first is a great way to be. It really is. It will guarantee success.
Yeah, I agree. It's cutting out the noise, isn't it? I guess if I'm a listener and I'm listening to this podcast, I guess there's something that would stand out for me over this episode. And it's my question to you now is, it's like mindset, we all get it, like wake up positive, pick up the phone. But what do we do when like shit's gone down, when things are bad, either personally or professionally? Then how do you apply that mindset to you and that discipline over motivation to your day-to-day?
Yeah, great question. So I, as you know, I'm a Myers-Briggs practitioner. Very posh.
ENTJ?
I'm an ENTJ. And one benefit to the work that I've done in that area and to the work that I do with groups is around understanding yourself. And in Myers-Briggs, you have something that's called in the grip, right? So every personality type, when they are under pressure, pushed into high stress, your behaviors will change in a particular way. As an example, for me, if I'm pushed into a really high stress environment, or I'm like not feeling great, my stress response when I'm in the grip is I get really short and I get really like to the point. There's no fluff. There's no niceties. There's like it's, did you do that? Yes, no, why not? And so I think it's really interesting to understand how you behave. And if anybody is interested in doing the Myers-Briggs with us, like, let us know. But it's really good to understand, because then I can go, okay, I'm behaving like this. I'm stressed. I am in that stress zone. My brain might be saying, no, we're okay. But how I'm acting is actually saying, no, you're not. Like, I'm in my stress response zone. So being very aware of it is good. How you pull yourself out of it is by stopping and pausing. Stop running just for a second, stop running, and listing out what are the things that are stressing me out right now, and what are the 1 to 3 things that I can do to resolve it right now. And I find that takes you from a problem and a stress environment feeling like this right down to this. And it also gives you, for a manager, for example, if you were to walk into a one-to-one, and you've done that with yourself and gone, these things are going wrong, but these are the things that I'm going to counter. Then going into a meeting with your manager and saying, hey, I know these things are going wrong for me. These are the things that I've highlighted that I can do in terms of next steps. Is there anything else you think I could be doing? It's a really nice way to take control. So that's, yeah.
I love that. I remember when you did it on our offsite, and I walked away from that being like, that's why he does that.
Yeah.
It really helped collaboration.
Having a great understanding of yourself and others in your team is absolutely incredible. And then it just helps you kind of move a bit more through life with a bit more empathy. And we don't all see the world the same way. And we have to be kind of, prepared for that too. So, I think it's really good. I know we're kind of coming up on time on our podcast today, but there was a couple of other things that I think we just wanted to talk about, particularly with targets. We talk about stretch. We talk about stretch goals. We talk about stretch targets. You alluded to it a little bit earlier on as well. In sales, we have, could be monthly, could be quarterly, could be annually if you're lucky, targets. But we also have holidays and public holidays and seasonality and budget cycles, depending on wherever you are in the world. And I think if you can also get very, very smart around, when am I going on holiday? When do I need to hit my target? What are the slower months? Like around Easter, you won't get hold of anybody at Easter. All those things are, again, becoming a little bit more aware and a bit more methodical of where you need to push the accelerator versus where you can kind of pull back. Because I never went on a holiday not knowing that I was had either hit my number or was just literally waiting for a deal or two to come over the line. I think that helps with your mindset as well, because you're taking control of it.
Yeah.
And also in stretch, there's a really cool book called The Slight Edge. I can't remember the guy that wrote it right now, but The Slight Edge, he's all about, everybody sets these big, hairy, audacious goals for themselves. And it feels really hard. So saying, I'm going to drink a litre of water every day feels really hard. But if you said, I'm going to drink 1 glass of water over the next year, you're going to drink 365 more glasses of water. Yeah. And you're probably going to hit that instead of the 1 litre every day. And it's the same with sales. I used to get to the end of my calls and go, yeah, great. I've hit 50 calls today. Great. I'm going to do 5 more. Because if I do an extra 5 more and my conversion rate is 25%, imagine that over the year. That's your stretch goal. That's your P club. That I think with mindset as well is really good, is just pushing yourself that tiny bit further will pay you back in the long run. For sure.
100%. And you look at that, even from a training perspective, how do you make muscle grow? You stretch it, you push it, you go that extra 2 reps more than you're meant to. It's exactly the same thing. If you want to go that extra bit further, then you've got to put in that little bit more at the same time. Definitely.
Agreed.
Love that.
So as we wrap up this podcast today, Lucy, and we started on mindset, what are the things we're going to give our folks to take away today?
The difference between the top performer and the bottom performer is consistency. I like that one.
Yeah, that's a great one. Prioritization, reverse engineering your numbers, taking into account seasonality, budgeting cycles, holidays, time off, all that kind of stuff. Think there's reverse engineering, and then there's going a little bit further than that. Yeah, is the other one. And then the slight edge, I think. I love that. Do yourself a favor when you've hit that number or those dials. Just do another 5 or do another 2 or do another 3, because that consistently done over time will give you that stretch target.
I agree. Totally agree.
Love it. All right, my friend. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you everyone for listening and for hanging out with us today. Again, if you have any questions, comments, topics that you'd like us to cover,
get them in. Or if you've got any financial year budget that you want to get rid of,
Oh, that's a good one, Lucy. If anybody has end of financial year budget that you need to place somewhere, whether that is for yourself and some personal coaching, or whether you've got a bit of budget sat there for training, development, revenue operations, Myers-Briggs, anything, you know where we are. All right. Thank you so much, Lucy. Bye.
Thanks, guys.